Today, we are cracking open one of the most legendary and infamous books in all of Vampire the Masquerade, the Storyteller's Handbook to the Sabbat. Now, these guys aren't just your run-of-the-mill bad guys. Oh no, they're a whole philosophy of undeath, a gothic punk holy war against the ancient vampires who secretly run the world. So, let's take a deep breath and dive into the darkness to see what really makes these monsters tick. Right out of the gate, the book hits you with this quote. And honestly, it tells you everything you need to know. The Sabbat doesn't do debates. They don't do diplomacy. They are a walking, talking declaration of war, and their arguments are made with claws and fangs. It's the perfect setup for the brutal, rebellious sect we're about to get into. So, here's our roadmap for this descent into madness. We'll start with who the Sabbat are, then we'll see how they're made, literally. After that, we'll untangle their twisted politics, face the devils they hunt in their own ranks, and finally, look at how you can use all this to tell your own incredible stories of horror. Okay, first up, welcome to the Sabbat. So what is the Sabbat, really? Well, they call themselves the Sword of Kine. They see themselves as a righteous army fighting a holy war. But a war against who? And what for? Yeah, that's where it all starts to get really, really messy. This right here, this is the core conflict of the entire setting. On one side, you've got the Camarilla. They're all about the masquerade, keeping vampires secret, serving your ancient masters, and, keeping things just the way they are. But on the other side, you've got the Sabbat, who are screaming for freedom from those very same elders. They demand total loyalty, not to some old vampire, but to the entire sect and its grand, bloody crusade. And you gotta understand, this isn't some new fight. This beef is old. We're talking of 1493, when a massive vampire rebellion called the Anarch Revolt finally ended. The Camarilla was officially formed, and anyone who refused to bow down was kicked out. Those outcasts, they became the Sabbat. Flash forward a few centuries to 1933, and after their own nasty civil war, they write up the Code of Milan, basically trying to write down their ideals of freedom and loyalty into actual law. But this whole philosophy, this holy war, it's built on something incredibly brutal. You see, being Sabbat isn't a choice you make over a cup of coffee. It's something you survive. The sect forges its soldiers in, well, the most horrifying way you can possibly imagine. They're called the creation rites, and it goes like this. First, you get one last look at the people you're with, as humans, a final memory of what you're all about to lose forever. And then, they bury you alive. You're left alone in the dark, in the earth, with nothing but your own terror as you die and are reborn as a vampire. The only way out is to claw your way back to the surface, breaking through the dirt as something else. And whatever you were before, it's just gone. It's burned away, and the terror and the darkness. What crawls out of that grave is a monster, twisted and inhuman, and its first, maybe its only real loyalty is to the other monsters who just clawed their way out of the dirt right beside it. That's how a Sabbat pack is born. So you'd think a sect made up entirely of monsters born from trauma would be pure, absolute chaos, right? Just a bunch of screaming lunatics. But nope, that's what's so wild. The Sabbat has a complex and completely lethal political system that keeps a kind of brutal order. See, inside the sect, there are these elite factions that have pretty much total power. The two you really need to worry about are the Black Hand, think of them as the Sabbat's special forces, and the Inquisition, which is basically their internal affairs. These groups are the ones who make sure that even in a sect that screams about freedom, the leader's will is absolute. And the Black Hand isn't just a disorganized mob either. They're a highly specialized military unit. You've got your raiders, who are the frontline shock troops. You've got rangers, who are the expert scouts, amazing at tracking and survival, and then you have the covert agents, the spies who infiltrate the enemy and gather intel. This is a serious, organized war machine. And this is the beautiful, twisted contradiction at the very heart of the Sabbat. Their own founding document, the Code of Milan, literally promises relief from tyranny and guarantees freedom to every single member. And yet, the whole sect is built on this rigid, violent hierarchy where stepping out of line means you're dead. It's a promise of total freedom enforced by total control. But the Sabbat's enemies aren't just the Camarilla out there, or their own leaders in here. No. They believe in a much deeper, much more corrupting evil, a threat that comes from within their own monstrous ranks. And it has to be destroyed without any mercy at all.
And that's exactly what the Sabbat Inquisition is for. It was founded way back in 1804 with one single mission: hunt down infernalists. These are Sabbat who make deals with demons. It's the one line they will not cross. I mean, think about it. For a sect that prides itself on being monsters, dealing with demons is the one thing that will get you tortured and publicly executed. So on one side, you have the Sabbat Inquisitor, the hunter, ready to pass judgment. And on the other, you have the kind of thing they hunt, a demon like Barliagus, a creature that corrupts everything it touches. The Sabbat might be evil, but they see infernalism as a cancer that they have to cut out. So what exactly is this demonic power they're so afraid of? It's a type of blood magic called dark thaumaturgy, and the handbook itself has this incredible warning. The writers are talking directly to you, the person running the game, and they're basically saying, look, this stuff isn't for your cool antihero. This magic is for the absolute most irredeemable villains in your story, period. And yeah, you can see why. The rituals are just so perverse and cruel. You can touch someone and flood their mind with painful, traumatic memories. You can literally turn someone into a toad. Or you can sacrifice a cat to summon a little demon named Tibulio, whose whole deal is injuring cats. It's a power source that's just fundamentally evil and corrupting. So what's the ultimate price for this kind of power? The book has a system for it, called demonic investment. It's a pact. The demon gives you power, you give it something of value. And what's the most valuable thing you can offer? What's the biggest prize for the demon? 9 to 10 points. That's the value for willingly and freely giving away your soul. Okay, so we've waded through all this lore, all this darkness. And now the handbook does something really cool. It pivots and it starts talking directly to you, the storyteller. It takes all this terrifying Gothic material and shows you how to actually forge it into a great story. And they give you practical tools to manage all this chaos, like this quick reference sheet. You can think of it like a blueprint for your horror story. It helps you map out the basic plot, the mood you're going for, who the main characters are. It's all about giving you a solid structure to build on. For example, it gives you a guide for running a Sabbat crusade. You know, a huge, all-out war for a city. Step 1. Pick a city you know really well so you can fill it with cool, gritty details. Step 2. Figure out the timing. Are your players going to be the first spies on the ground, or are they showing up with the main invasion? And the advice goes way deeper than that. The book actually encourages you to find out what your players are personally afraid of and use that to make the horror more real and intense. It talks about balancing the big action scenes with quiet political intrigue. And maybe most importantly, it reminds you to just ask your players what kind of game they want to play. And that really brings us to the final burning question. The Sabbat truly believe they are the good guys. They see themselves as freedom fighters, as holy warriors fighting ancient tyrants for the soul of their entire species. We've seen their horrifying rituals, their brutal politics, and the lines they're willing to cross. So after all of that, are they really freedom fighters? Or are they just another kind of monster, maybe even a worse one?